And
Good
then,
morning, Francis.
oh, good morning, Susan. So nice to see you.
Same here.
Yeah.
I'm here today with St. John's alumna Frances Hynes. She graduated 1966 from St. John's College, and she welcomed me to her lovely home. I have been here several times, and every time I walk into your home, Frances, I feel like I'm walking into an art gallery. She is a talented, oh, you're welcome. She's a talented artist, and I love, just walking around and seeing all the different pieces of her work. Today, we're talking about something specific because I want all of you, if you're available tomorrow, it's at 1 o'clock. Oh, I'm sorry,
No, it's Saturday at noon.
This Saturday
at noon.
Right, at the Hudson River Museum. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we can't go to the museum and see it in person. But Frances, along with Mark Taylor,
Yes, Mark
who is the
Taylor.
director of the planetarium, will be arranging a Zoom meeting with Frances, and you can all join it, and you will be able to see her works of art, which one behind us that was inspired, the stars, and the work is called Frances Constellation.
Oh, my show at the Hudson River Museum is called Constellations, and yes, my name, Frances Hynes. There are about 10 works in the show, and it opened in January, and unfortunately, due to COVID, closed soon after that. And there was a conversation with myself and Mark Taylor, the planetarium director, scheduled for March, along with a reception, but unfortunately that was canceled. But this Saturday, as Susan mentioned, we're doing a Zoom meeting. So we'll show you the works that are in the show, maybe an installation shot, so you would get to have a feeling of the whole show, and talk about some of my source material, which I left the book in the other room. It was a little book of star stories that I was given when I was a child, and we'll show that. And Mark, who's planetarium director, can actually pick out the constellations in my painting. Well, they're pastel drawings.
Wow, that's
not
amazing.
in this one.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
talk about that later.
Great.
But in the works in the show were done in the mid-'80s, and at that time I was looking at the constellations. I was spending time on Monhegan Island in Maine and upstate New York, where you would have a good view of the stars without any light pollution, and I would lie down at night, and I had my star map, and you can still get these if you want to begin to study the stars. And I had my flashlight, so I could look at the map, and then I could look up at the stars and find, everybody knows the Big Dipper, I guess, and the Little Dipper, and maybe the Northern Cross or Cygnus. But I tried to find less well-known constellations as well.
And how did you make the connection with the Hudson River Museum, which is in Yonkers, New York,
Right.
correct?
It's a little over a year ago last December, so let's say December 2018, I showed my work to the curator, who's Laura Volkis, and I particularly wanted to show her a piece called Walking Along the Hudson. And it's a painting of deer, which they now have in their collection, and kind of trails and trees, and you get the feeling that maybe you're on a walk up along the Hudson. And actually the painting was about my great-grandfather, who lived in Astoria and was very interested in herbs and herbal cures. And he would take a train somewhere up along the Hudson, I don't know where, but he'd take my mother, who was a child at the time, and he would collect herbs. So that's a memory of my mom's, and the memory is kind of in this painting. I work from photographs, from my imagination, from my own experience. So all that was in this painting called Walks Along the Hudson. But I guess at the same time, Oh, I went up there and I saw, which I didn't know or had forgotten, that they had a planetarium.
Mm.
So I had just had these pastel paintings from the 1980s put up on my website, which you can see if you wish, francishines.com.
I was just going to say, what is it?
And
Francis
then go
Hines.
to the archive section and then look for constellations, and you'll see all my constellation pastel drawings. So Laura saw these and she thought they would be appropriate for a show, so here we are. It happened.
That's a nice
A
story.
year later it happened.
So tell us just a little bit. I don't want to take away from
Um,
Saturday.
right.
So kind of just give us a little teaser.
Yeah.
But just tell us a
Well,
little bit about this
There'll
piece.
be other things in
Mhm.
the presentation on Saturday. Source material, as I said, and then I kind of bring it up to date, just to show people that yes, I'm still interested in the stars, but they're less specific. It's more about a feeling that you might have looking at the night sky,
Mhm.
and I think everybody's interested in the constellations and the solar system. It's so mysterious,
It is,
isn't it?
yeah. I love
It's
it.
just wonderful to
Mm.
contemplate and see that.
Although
so-
you get that feeling from
I
this
think
painting.
so, yeah.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
And
If it was dark right now in this room and just lying on
Uh-huh.
the ground looking at that, you
Yeah.
could pretend.
right,
It's so, it kind of jumps at you. Unfortunately, everyone's watching it through a lens,
Yeah.
but if you're here in person, it really,
Uh-huh.
pops at you. I love it.
right.
And then tell us this here.
Well, that's a kind of a boat shape,
Mm-hmm.
and again, it's not specific.
Right.
And if you look over here, can you see that? Maybe not. I
Let's
could
see.
take it down.
Yeah.
This is some of my source material.
Oh, I see.
So all around the room, you might see photographs and
I
pictures.
do.
And I like collecting pictures of boats and ships. So this could be source
Oh, I
material
see.
for
Oh,
that.
okay.
In other
Mhm.
words, I don't specifically draw that image, but I kind of use the image of a boat,
Oh, interesting.
maybe in a more abstracted way.
That's
And
great.
and the painting becomes more about paint itself and about composition and process, how it was made. You
And
see
how long
evidence.
did this take you?
This one
complete?
actually took years.
Really?
I've been
Wow.
working on this. I'll tell you how I date it. I left my studio of 38 years in Long Island City
Mhm.
in 2016, and this was in progress at that studio prior to 2016,
Wow.
and I just finished it in 2020.
Do you ever get bored if it's taking so long? Like, when is it
No.
ever going to end?
I
Or-
tell you, it's
No.
always exciting.
It's always a labor
like,
of love, as you can
and
see.
changing,
Mhm.
and I may put it aside for months or maybe even years at a time, but come out and look at it, and it kind of becomes clearer what I want to do with it.
That's terrific.
And yeah, I don't.
Well, you're gonna see more of
Yeah.
Francis's work at the Hudson River Museum if you zoom in, so to speak,
Mhm.
on Saturday at 1 o'clock. But there's
No,
one other.
noon, Saturday at noon.
Oh, Saturday at noon? Why did I think
I
one? You
don't
know what
know.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
of? The power hours.
Okay.
Also, our power hours are every Tuesday at 1 o'clock,
Uh-huh.
and we'll have to have you on a power hour and
I'd
give us
love
some tips on painting.
I'd
That
love
would be
to,
great.
yeah.
But there's one other painting before we close
Mhm.
that Francis was showing me before we started taping, and I thought it was a really interesting story. So I don't know if you want to
It's
bring
here.
it. This
If you
one,
want
want
to
me
turn, oh,
want
that's
me
a
to
good
bring it
idea.
here?
Yeah, just take it down. And
Hold on. I thought it was a
Um,
nice story. You could
yeah,
share with
I-
everybody.
Susan liked this work very much, and I like it too. And I started it last summer in Maine, in Stonington, Maine, and just finished it recently again. I just kept changing it. But it's the house of Stephen Pace and Pam Pace, his wife. He has passed away. He was an artist and a friend of mine, and a wonderful man and a wonderful artist. Stephen Pace, you can look up his work if you wish, but this home they very generously gave to Maine College of Art, and Maine College of Art sends students there to work and faculty members you have to have some connection with the college to go there. But it's open one night a week, and it's always so wonderful to go into someone's home and see, you know, their personal things that they collected and their furniture and so on. So, and a lot of his paintings are there as well. So this is his house. That's what it looks like if you ever go there. It's very large, goes way out in this direction, and it's attached to a very big barn, which was Stephen's studio. And if you look out, if you were standing in front of the house looking out, there's a wonderful view of the ocean, and looking out toward Isle Haut and I forget Bar Harbor, Maine, and there's a national
beautiful
park up there.
Yeah.
So Stonington's a very beautiful place, very remote, hard to get to, but if you do get down that way, look for Stephen Pace's house.
Yeah, it's really
so
nice.
That's what it's about.
We had a professor, unfortunately he passed away, Professor Ronalds.
Oh yes,
And I don't know if you know him, and he lived in Maine, and
oh yeah,
he did a lot of,
Oh, do you know where he was?
He was an artist. I don't know exactly what town, but yes, and also Francis is a contributor of the Yay Gallery, our art gallery, at St. John's University on the Queens campus. So we thank you for
so
us
welcome.
always supporting us. She's a big supporter of the director. He's fairly new, Owen Duffy, and he does a fabulous job. So hopefully when we get back to campus, you can also join us for that.
Yeah.
As well, we're showing all these sad stories of the results of the pandemic. We were having a women's weekend at the end of March. And a local shop here, not too far from where Francis resides in Bayside, we were going to have Francis was going to have a show at this shop for the women's weekend, and the proceeds were going to go to St. John's University and for women's scholarships. But that is postponed, so hopefully we can do it again in March.
Right.
That would be great. So if you're not able to see the show on Saturday, obviously there'll be a recording, I would think.
I think so.
Right.
Maybe you could get back to people
Yeah.
about that.
But you can. There's going to be other opportunities where you can see Francis's show. I know
Owen is planning a show
Owen's
for
planning.
maybe next spring.
Spring, okay.
So
you'll be able to see that too. But this is great. I mean, this is just an example of what I've been talking about in all my messages of coming to visit the alumni and sharing your stories or sharing your talents. So thank you today. This
You're very
was wonderful.
welcome, and I would like to say I am grateful for my education at St. John's University,
nice.
and particularly recently I greatly appreciate the community of alumni and people like Susan and Owen and different people I've gotten to know at the university, and they're close to home, and it's a very nice community to be a part of.
Oh, that's very nice, and we're glad you're part of it too.
Thank you, Susan.
It's a good, the St. John's family is a nice family, isn't it?
Definitely is.
It's
great. Family, and I think you don't realize that when you're a student there, but in later years you begin to realize that, and I greatly appreciate it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and thanks everyone for listening, and hopefully you'll join us on Saturday with Francis. Have a great day.
I hope you do.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.